Roll for Crit here with a review of KeyForge Age of Ascension. This is going to be a little different because, honestly, if you want to know our crits and misses for KeyForge, not much has changed. Go watch our original KeyForge video. This is more of looking at the new set, our thoughts on it. What we did is we played with 6 different decks, as you can see here, in case you're curious what their weird names are. 4 of them come from packs, but 2 of them came from the new starter set.
Yeah, the new starter set, which no longer includes any pre-made sets that the original one did. Just 2 random ones and some fun new components. As you can see, this playmat right here comes with 2 of these. They're poster quality. It's nothing insane, but it's nice to have to be able to play and organize your game this way. And they're fairly large as well. And new versions of all the old components, most of them are simply smaller. You can see the amber is smaller, the damage tokens, as well as the keys themselves.
Fun weird fact, the key slots on the playmat fit the old ones,
Yeah.
not the new ones.
Yeah, I'm guessing, I think maybe at some tournaments, sometimes people have made their own custom keys, so they wanted to let people have those. It also replaces the old stun and damage power-up cards with tokens, because why were they ever cards? Tokens make so much more sense. So that's really nice. So honestly, even if you have already been playing KeyForge, I think it is well worth it, just right out the gate, if you're a fan, to buy one of the new starter sets, because you're getting 2 completely new decks and these newer components, and it's not very expensive. So I think before getting into the actual play of it, I just really like the way they did that, the way they reintroduced the starter set. This is a big deal because KeyForge was a whole new concept. This unique deck system had never been tried before, and we weren't sure exactly how new sets were going to work going forward. Eventually they said that we're never going to cycle out old decks, but we still didn't know, is there going to be? Of course, there's always concerns like power creep or the opposite of that, what have you.
Right, so what they actually did with this set is half the cards are new, when the other half are from the previous set. Now, I don't know future sets if they're only that second half will only be from the last set, or whether it'll be a mix from all old sets. We'll have to see. Mm-hmm. But from general consensus, it seems that second half of old cards seems to be on the stronger end from the previous set. So that has made a lot of people happy and think that this has sort of been a very interesting mix of we get the good without the bad.
Yeah.
But of course, let's look at what the new keywords first before we go over the general premise. We have
brand new keywords.
Yes, you always gotta have new keywords in a new card set.
Keywords for KeyForge.
We have deploy, which lets you actually place it anywhere in the lineup. This is particularly important for characters like this who give their neighbors bonuses.
Right. Normally, you would always just put a new creature on a flank, but this one you could put right in the middle of your line.
We also have Alpha and Omega. Alpha it has to be the first card you play. After you played a card before that, you can't play alphas again. Omega's the opposite. It's the last thing you play.
Right.
So nothing too hard to get your head around. Just another restriction in terms of things you can play.
Or for me, a benefit, because I'm like, well, I know this card's going last, so I don't have to think about it. Those are really the 2 big keywords.
Keywords, yes. But there are also some other cool things. Mm-hmm. There's shards that were added. It's not really a keyword. It's more of a type
of item.
They usually have things that they do an effect for each shard you have. For example, you had a deck with 2 shards, and they're pretty nice because they stack on each other.
Right. Then they're usually from different houses, mm-hmm. So you don't have to worry about being able to play them all in the same turn or anything. They're nice.
Of course, you have other cards that just maybe not new keywords, but new fun effects. The one that we enjoyed was Plague Rat, where he actually comes with 4 copies in the deck because each Plague Rat, similar to shards, will actually injure the opponent or every creature for each round on the field. And the final one, we think this is new. We didn't see anything like this in the previous set. Mm-hmm. We got a card from one particular house that actually specifically mentioned another house. This one being the Mars Ambassador for the, I'm blanking totally on his house.
Sanctum,
thank you. Who actually rewards you for having Mars cards. So we thought that was pretty interesting and specific.
Yeah, interesting to see some interplay between the houses. Now, of course, all these decks are completely random. So, we didn't get the chance to play with every card that's out there. And
every card, we make sure we had a deck for everything.
Yeah, there's all kinds of variants. I mean, you were saying like 4 Plague Rats, could have fewer, could have more. This is just what we had experienced. But there were a handful of cards, in addition to even these, that we wanted to talk about just because we thought they were interesting strategically or from a gameplay perspective.
We did notice there was a bit more of a trend going on. It seemed that a lot of the, I assume, new cards were designed to actually counter maybe strategies that seemed very common in the previous set. Big one obviously would be Reap Hate. There were cards that were anytime someone reaps, stun it. There are cards like this one I really did enjoy. You didn't like it that much. Was Ether Spider, who actually makes it so if your opponent would gain Amber at any time, he captures it instead. So you have to go into combat. In other words.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and some of these like will punish not even just your opponent but yourself as well for reaping, for example. This one is just after a creature reaps, so you got to worry about it too. So I think that's interesting from the perspective that, you know, they're looking at what was so strong about the original and saying, well, what are some ways we could counter that? I mean, reaping is literally probably your primary way of getting Amber to win, so it's interesting.
Right, and another big issue that some players may have was Taunt and Elusive. In fact, I don't remember the card right now, but I remember we had a whole debacle about how a card with worked with Elusive with combat.
There's a lot of things going on with those keywords, yeah.
So they had a bunch of cards that actually pretty much deal damage to the neighbors. So that gets around Elusive because that's not fighting, so that damages them beforehand. Or if something has Taunt, you're still getting able to get their neighbors that they're protecting.
Yeah, I think in general, and we saw the deploy keyword as well. It seemed like what we were noticing was there was a lot more going on with the positioning of the battle line, particularly whether something was on a flank or not. And like you said, affecting your neighbors. Like this card, there was one card that only worked if it was next to a certain other type, or
not on a flank.
Or not on a flank. Yeah. So that's also another kind of layer of strategy to look at, which is cool.
And we have just a small handful of cards. We saw a couple more. It's still a bit rare. But your artifacts are not as safe as you thought they were.
Yeah. I mean, the artifacts can be very strong, and even in our first few decks that we opened, we were like, yeah, there's still artifacts.
No, we played one match when like both of us, I guess just the deck styles, had like 10 artifacts on each side.
Which was a lot. But yeah, these things have some pretty consistent ways to get rid of them. Usually there's a cost that maybe it's your own as well, but sometimes, this one just lets you destroy any artifact that you want. So if there's one that's really annoying you, you can get rid of it. Or we also noticed, I think, some more ways to either put them back into the opponent's hand or into their archive. So maybe not destroy them directly, but
interact with them.
Give you something to do to them, which is definitely appreciated.
We notice there's a lot of cards even from old cards too, to either increase your key costs or even make yours cheaper, or forge a key on your turn, which I actually used twice to win a game, which is actually pretty impressive.
Those are incredibly strong abilities. Or like this Pocket Universe, which lets you keep Amber so it can't be stolen from you. So yeah, there's just a lot of different ways to manage those things and hopefully keep them out of your opponent's hands. Then we've just got a few cards that I just want to talk about because I think they're interesting. So you got this guy here, Rotheus the Fierce.
Yeah, he was really annoying to Jonathan because I got him in 2 different decks.
Yeah. So he has Taunt, so I have to attack him if I want to. If he I can't attack his neighbors at least. And Hazardous 4, which means before attacking him, whatever I'm using gets 4 damage to it, which usually would just end the fight. And honestly, there was eventually I learned the lesson I was like, if that guy's in the field, I didn't even try to attack him. I mean, it depends on what your deck has in it, but with the ones that I was working with, I was like, better to ignore this guy.
Now, just because I had 2 decks of that doesn't mean Jonathan didn't have 2 decks with my own Orders
I
and
had
Marvels.
some annoying things in there as well.
Both of these cards ruined my day. Bindings of Iron actually gave your opponent change, which is a big deal. Like, you don't think one card matters as much until you have a hand that doesn't work well. For Refresher of Change, by the way, we should mention the star set also comes with actually a thick piece of cardboard for your chain chart instead of a card. You have to go on this chart. If you actually have a lot of chains, you actually get 4 less in your hand. Usually you're only going to have 1. But giving you 3 means for pretty much 4 turns about you're having 1 less card in your hand, which can be really just...
And for the fact that this is just an action, you play it, there's really no cost to the person playing it, other than the card itself. It doesn't do anything to you, so that's a strong card.
There is also this new Mars card. New to us.
Yeah, we definitely found some fun with this one.
Pretty much with it, Jonathan board wiped me multiple times.
Yeah, if you don't have anything on your side, you deal 4 damage to each creature in play. play, which, well, in that case is going to be only your enemies. So that can be really, like you said, if you're in a bad place, you can really use that effectively to wipe the board from your opponent. Really good card. And
You
then
just
what's
enjoy this. Pretty simple. It's an artifact that lets you draw, but drawing's always good.
This one I thought was good. I mean, logos seem to have a draw engine as part of their structure already, but to have an automatic option to just draw a card each turn if you're using that house, always good.
This final one, I don't think you liked it as much.
I just wanted to talk about this.
Yeah.
So this card, Gromid here, it's really strong, as you can see. It has 10 power, and every time something gets destroyed by it, the opponent loses an amber. Incredibly strong. However, once it's on the field, you cannot play any more creatures. So at least, you're the person who put it out. So what happened is you had a bunch of creatures who were all elusive, and
I killed off all your other creatures.
Yes. So I ended up with this guy on the field blocking me for like 4 turns, and me desperately wishing I could find a way to kill him because I couldn't play anything. So I really learned the risks of this guy, but a very interesting mechanic nonetheless. I could see him in some circumstances doing a lot.
One final thing I want to mention, it's not really a specific card, it's just something I noticed in our decks. There seemed to be more of a, in the previous deck, I was just like, oh, there's this Mars, Sanctum, or Dis, and they have their thing. I felt like there's actually a full theme with all the houses. Like I had one deck where all the houses had power tokens. I had one where all of them had archive and stuff. I felt like there's more matching synergy.
Yeah, I feel that. Whereas like in the first set, maybe really Mars was the only one that usually had archive stuff in it. But
logos too, but
a little bit.
I will mention that both of those are the two houses we had the least amount in
the first
deck.
set.
So
yeah,
this we were actually pretty even with houses. I was really happy about that.
Yeah, I think overall we had a couple decks that didn't match well against other decks, but I feel like in the Age of Call of the Archons from the first set that we played with, I felt like there were 1 or 2 that maybe we felt this one just isn't great. I thought all of these were pretty strong in the right circumstances, and at least if not maybe the best, enjoyable to play with. It had some cool potential combos that you could pull off.
Partly because I think since it seemed they synergized a bit more, like even the fact there's an advisor in the Sanctum that involved Mars.
The Ambassador, yeah.
Ambassador. I enjoyed the decks a bit more because of that. Now, the one thing I'm curious about, your opinion on, in particular, since you're not as much of a CCG player.
This is true.
As you watch any card game grow, and I don't think KeyForge has been an exception here, you'll notice the cards get wordier. Because in order to make things more powerful, outside of just making something have all of a sudden 90 power or something, you give them more wordy abilities and stuff. And I would say this has more words on it and stuff. Like before the fight, it came up a lot more in this set for us than in the previous one. And like weird things like, in particular, this card, Grump Buggy, for example, we had to constantly keep looking like you had both these in the deck, so we had to constantly keep looking. Do you have a damaged creature? How many creatures power do you?
They affect the cost of your keys depending on what's on the field. Yeah, this is another one that we should talk about.
So how do you feel? Because core set wise, starter set. I thought it came with a lot.
Original starter set.
Yeah. I mean like the box sets.
Call of the Archons, yeah.
Came with more stuff.
You do literally mean the starter set.
I mean starter sets.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Compared to the one from the previous one. And the decks, which I don't, weird small note, like the decks that came in that have opened differently than the regular packs. We don't know why.
Yeah, they sideload them now.
But I think I come with more stuff, and because I already play Magic very well, I could wrap my head around most of this pretty quickly.
Yeah, I feel like I've played enough Fantasy Flight games. Like any of them, they end up have so many keywords. And for our first game, it had been a while since we played, so I was definitely sitting there like, God, how do these things interact with each other? I have to remember what's the order of how these things, this has elusive and taunt and skirmish and it deploys, and what does all that mean? But I think overall, once you get into the groove of it, I didn't think it was too much more complicated than the original cards really were. I think, really,
there's already a skill that you need to get to the first.
I think so. Maybe it'll take you a little bit longer to wrap your head around it, but I didn't think it was anything crazy in that regard. The real question is, I mean, it's hard to say because again, there's a random pool that we're playing with, and we can't experience the whole set
A random
fully.
fixed pool.
Right.
Like, it's not even like that we can make new decks.
Right, but I mean, what are your impressions overall? I think that I don't expect that this will change our opinions of the game at large very much. But did you think that this set is fun, and I want to play this more and enjoy these and try them out against the old set, or are you just kind of like, yeah, it's still KeyForge, more of the same?
Part of me is still like it's KeyForge. I still had plenty of moments where I'm like, I hate that I feel so restricted to one house or another kind of deal. But as I said, because I had an entire deck, like, this whole deck has archives. This deck had power tokens. Maybe we were just lucky with the decks we got, but I had a lot more fun because of that, because I was thinking a bit more about my archive or something like that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that stuff would really work. I think a lot of these new cards, like the ones we showed off, are just so much fun and interesting. I do want to go back to like you said, these here that increased the cost of keys ended up making our game last like 3 times as long as any of the other ones that we played. So that was really interesting. So there's some stuff like that can happen depending on which decks go up against each other.
And I will say these have an unfair advantage because we had an amazing game in which you doubled my amber when I had 6, stole it, half of it, so you had like 20 something.
I ended up with I had 15 amber at once, and I still needed 2 keys, and you were like certain you were gonna lose.
I was,
but
and
we
I
kept
drew
playing.
a card, and I pretty much was able to forge 1 key because of this.
Because he only needed 1 left.
Yeah, this card. Well, you need 1 left too at that point, but yeah, you had enough to make 2 keys.
Right.
To forge a key on my turn was the only way I could.
You managed to stall me out long enough and forge a key on your turn to stop me. I mean, it was like, I wish that we had it on camera because it was a miraculous comeback. And just so exciting because, we didn't know these decks. So discovering that for the first time is a lot of fun. So yeah, I think that everything that I already loved about KeyForge is still present here. And if there are things that you didn't love about KeyForge, those are still present here. So in that regard, not much is going to change. But I really like a lot of the new card types, so I think there's no reason for me to say if you like KeyForge not to pick these up.
I think, if anything, you should more so, because I think they took whether you like it, as you said, like it or not, it's probably going to be still the same shape, but I think they sharpened it up a bit. There's a bit more counter and interaction in case people have artifacts, or if they're reaping so much, you're like, well, guess what? Have fun being stunned,
Right.
I feel like there's a lot more interaction in that way. And elusive doesn't just mean the creature's not on the board anymore. You have these cards are just like, yeah, I'm gonna kill that. So there's, I think, a lot more interaction back and forth. I think this set is just better.
So there you have it. We really like the Age of Ascension set. It's available right now. Definitely, if you are interested in it, like I said, get that starter set. It's just nice to have the new tokens and mats and everything. Plus, you get 2 decks in it. Really good deal. Or you could pick each deck up like this. See if you get any good names. We weren't too happy with the names that we got this time around, but we did get A. Thorn the Complex Skeptic. Mm-hmm. So there's some stuff like that in there. Let us definitely talk to us in the comments. Let us know what the names of your decks are and what cards you like or don't like from the new set, or what combos that you found that are maybe similar to this, different from this. Shards, different. What you think about the new keywords and combos you can pull off? We're fascinated by that stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Take it home.
Of course, don't forget to leave comments down below. But until then, I'm Will, the utterly disappointing.
I'm Jonathan, the Complex Skeptic.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
Here's an idea. Support our Patreon or like and subscribe to this channel for more.
Fagulu Miktawa audio expansion Wakana Cthulhu awesome.